So from cult to kawaii, I guess for me, the reason why it's so important that I get to dress in my adorableness and live my life is it's a symbol of getting to be one, out of the cult, and two, actually getting to be myself. Once you've gone through something that jarring, you realize life is an instant, live it, have fun. The rules are made up. They are literally made up, and this is what being an adult looks like. Um, for me, a lot of people are like, well, did you know you were born in a cult? No, I wasn't born in a cult like those people on TV. But it was like slowly over time, right? That expression, the pot and the frog slowly boiling. Like at first, although my father was extremely cultish, it didn't come out until I got, it kind of things changed when I was 6, then things changed when I was 8. And it kind of started out that way. From cult to kawaii, as a teenager, young adult, like we weren't allowed to like be teens or tweens or kids. We had to be adults. We had to know how to run a house as if we were a wife at age 12. And we had to be able to do all of the adult things, make adult decisions, and be punished like an adult. You weren't allowed to, I wasn't allowed to make friends outside of the cult. And even people that were within the homeschool group weren't enough, correct enough to be my friends. It had to be specifically from our little cult group. It had to be my church friends. And I really couldn't stray outside of that. Even if it was other Christians, that wasn't good enough. One of the things I think is really telling about a cult group is when they start condemning you for even trying to think. You cannot think anything differently. Like literally, you cannot have any. So, start over. Okay. From cult to kawaii. Like the kawaii. I love my kawaii. So this cult really kind of screwed me over because I wasn't allowed to interact with people around my age outside of the cult, and it was honestly looked down upon. I was allowed to interact with adults or children, so I know how to interact with your grandma and your kids, but interacting with people my own age is very weird, and here's why. When you're in a dynamic where you either have to watch the younger kids or be told what to do by the older kids, cults are very much about power, so there is no equalness. When you're in the group, there's always the older kids that you have to defer to or the younger kids that you have to take care of. Peers your own age, it's still kind of a power struggle because you still have to do what the older ones say. There is no just getting along to just get along. There's always a power struggle. Just harder. So from cult to kawaii, the thing that people don't realize is how it really like screws you over education wise. So I was pretty much given books and taught my vowels, and there you go, have at it, figure it out for the rest of your life. And that was when I was pretty young. I started to have to teach myself from like 12. I really wasn't taught math or much of anything else. We did have these conferences that were like super important. Like they're like really, really important that you could go to for 2 days where you learned all of your history and pretty much everything you could really quickly. And that history was where I learned that Hitler was really gay, Lincoln was actually bad and wanted to hurt America, and something about physics where if you didn't have God in the triangle, chairs would start blowing up. And that was my education going to the world. From cult to kawaii, people might ask, like, why didn't you leave the cult sooner? Why didn't you address it? Like, well, here's the thing. When you're in a cult, I didn't even know what a cult was. I thought a cult was some type of group where they worship the devil or something. I had no idea that a cult is actually a group that supposedly is Christian, but they think that they're the only true Christians and everyone else is just wrong and is going to go to hell. I didn't know that's what a cult was. So if I had known that would have been helpful. However, I wasn't allowed to have my own phone. I wasn't allowed to have access to the internet. I wasn't allowed to talk to other people. So when you have no way to get out, it makes it very complicated to get out. It makes it very complicated for you to think. They make it to where you're not allowed to think. Thinking is sinful if you think anything outside of the religion. So if you want to question how you're being raised, that's not allowed. Although I got out of the cult, I still have like a lot of residual effects. Oh my gosh, I should have put this on at the bottom. Is it on there? Wait. There. Get on there. Da. I did manage to get onboarded at a St. Louis bread company, which I was really excited about. But then as soon as they figured out who my family was and who my parents were, they like fired me immediately. So it becomes very, very hard to get a job because you don't have any experience. And even if a lot of the stuff that I did was volunteer, so even if you do have experience, it's volunteer and they don't really count that the same way. So that affects that a lot. And that's something that people don't really think about that aren't raised in the cult. They're raised in this nice little outlet where they don't know what it's like when you don't have literally any way out.